Truth be told, when I wonder what the future holds, it takes me out of the present. New moon waxing, full moon waning, crescent. Life cycles, teammates or rivals. Soul search, dangerous, World War III, the goal's always survival. That's nature, day you're born when you meet your maker. Tears start chasing paper, burning trees or melting glaciers. But truth be told, when I wonder what the future holds, it's impossible to process, so I stay focused on my progress.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world, especially if you're in a particularly small island in St. Lucia. Welcome to the Triple Captains. Now, usually we focus on decision making and qualities around all of that. But as we've said over the past couple of weeks, we're in the business end of the season, so it's time to lock in. Today is all about the Blank Gameweek. But before we begin, how is everyone doing?
I think I'll start because of the small island jab. Just to let everyone know, this guy's actually half. Huh?
It's not jab.
Well, I don't know what. It can't be because you're half Lucian. So, let's just get that. Let's just get out there from now. This guy's half Lucian. You get me?
Oh.
But yeah, we have a few followers
South
around
London.
the world. Yeah, South London, half Lucian, half Jam. Yeah, so.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Well, you used to be a flying fish, Bayesian. And just, you know what I mean? You keep your hard wine over there. But yeah, funny enough, my dad's in East London right now. He's come to England, so he's not in St. Lucia. So that's one less viewer in Lucia right now. He's bigging up my team because obviously you might know he's a hammer. So he's been bigging us up. Saying we're doing our thing. However, he's been trying to get me slyly though when it comes to the podcast, innit? Because I haven't been hosting. Gasso, I bring you a little juice to cheer you up there, Gasso. So he bring me the real strong Dan Ross, 80%. You get me?
you need it.
But like, get me? St. Lucia's Ray, innit? I guess. But yeah. All jokes aside, Arsenal, yeah, big up Pupsy though. But yeah, and big up Mumsy every day. But yeah, Arsenal's doing their thing, FPL-wise, as he pointed out, and as I've been saying, it's not been looking too good recently. Haven't hosted as much as I want to in recent game weeks. I'm not gonna lie, I'm very pissed off if I'm honest, not even a bit. This is my worst season ever on paper, as it stands, and I can't see me getting to the scores I'm used to. So
What's this? Oh, sorry, I've heard a violin.
I heard it too.
that's cool. Nah, like I can't hear no instruments, but I can just hear the truth. And like, yeah, I'm just like, I'm fuming, man. I'm fuming. Not a lot of game weeks to go, so not enough ground that I can make. Well, not enough games for me to make up ground. So just gotta, you know what, smash these violins, you man are right, and just make sure that I win out of us three. Most importantly, that's all I've got left now. So I guess I need to get myself back into that middle screen. But,
Them Ian Bill quotes. I've got nothing left. Nothing.
Nah. No tears and no head on no one's lap. Get me? Never that. I mean, man, just sitting there, just being real. Because, you know, I started this podcast with you, man, knowing that I feel that I'm a good FPL manager. So I've got to be real when I'm not reflecting that in the season we start. So it's pissing me off, bro. When I look at my average over the last 3 years and I look at my highest scores, when I'm looking at my score now, I'm infuriated. But I'm not going to just drop out of the podcast. So I've just got to keep it real and just, you know, admit how I'm feeling. So there's going to be good times, there's going to be bad times. And right now, I'm not in the best of places, like when it comes to FPL. If I wasn't doing the pod, this might be the first season. I hear people always saying they're going to crash out and just stop. I might have just thought, F it. You know what I mean? Focus on my team. And then that's it. But yeah, man. Apart from that, Arsenal's doing well. Work's busy, life's busy, normal thing, innit? bit of a long intro, but I had to get the emotions out because I am pissed. Can't lie. Yeah.
Nah, it's fair. And to be honest, this season has been a bit of a crazy season, FPL-wise. Everybody's felt it, experienced it, and it is quite frustrating because sometimes it just feels like you're stuck in second gear, right? You just can't get, like, even for you guys, I know obviously it will be good to find out how you're feeling and how you're doing in a second. But like, I know, for instance, with you, that there were like 4 or 5 game weeks that you've actually either won or were nearly there. You've got a green arrow, but positionally you just don't move. Like, it's just been one of those seasons. Like, it's been tough. It's been tough. We did say at the start of all of this that like we would also have a bit of therapy in this. So maybe this is one of those sessions. So what is going on over there?
Yeah, man. Like, and that's the thing. Like, this season started badly, and it's just been bad the whole way through. And it's interesting because I was looking at some other content creators and looking at their scores over the last 4 or 5 years. And yes, sort of like I've fallen off where I should be or where I have been in the past. But also, like, generally people playing the game are getting better. You know, the score that might have got you a top 40,000 2-3 years ago won't this season. So, you know, the levels are going up. Obviously, people are getting smarter. People are kind of getting those little gains from people like us and other content creators out there. So it's very competitive. But yeah, how I'm feeling, I'm okay. I've had a good game week again. But to your point, it's you know, the damage has been done, and it's very difficult to really make huge gains and to get to where I want to get to. Having said that, you know, I'm now within 70 of Mr. Arsenal over there. So, you know, that's
at least you know I'm Arsenal all season, every day of the year. Do you know what I mean?
That's my target.
My tune ain't changed.
You know, just chip it away at that, and then let's see where we are. You know, yeah. We go on.
I say one thing. Yeah, I want to say one thing. I've clocked that a lot of the people that were doing very well in FPL last season, seasons before, it's like some of maybe the content creators that are doing well now haven't had good seasons in the last few seasons. So it's like it's like a bit of a change around. I don't know if it's because of the changes in FPL or what, but I've noticed that some people are doing extremely well who've never done well ever in some of the leagues I'm in. So it's like, it's really strange. It's frustrating, but it's funny at the same time seeing a certain man up there. It's mad.
Sometimes you can lose it at the beginning. When you kind of get behind the 8 ball, you suddenly have to take risks. And actually, this game is about following the analytics, right? And making sure that, you know, and if you veer away from that, then you put yourself in more red, and then it just becomes out of control. And to get that back, I think you said on some of your social media arc about how, you know, you had a sort of philosophy in mind and how to kind of like make gains, and you're making gains, but then one game week just undoes 3 or 4 weeks.
It does a lot, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think also a lot of what has happened is, to your point, in the first half of the season, like when the use of chips didn't work out, it's had a real big effect, because when I look at things and see, well, what's the gap between me and, say, 750,000, that kind of thing, like I can literally see it's a triple captain and a free hit move away from actually rubbing shoulders there. And yeah, it is frustrating, but there's a lot of learning as well that I've been able to take away from this season. So it'd be interesting if they keep defcons in time, because remember, defcons are like a repeatable action, right? So it's easier for you to identify who the right kind of defenders are for that. Have you got premium midfielders? Although, for instance, if Elliot Anderson goes to one of the top clubs, it's very unlikely that he's going to be able to hit defcon in the way that he was for Forest, because Forest are always chasing a game, right? Like I say, you have to use this to fuel us for next year and also for the final running. I haven't given up on targets, etc. that I've got. This week was a useful week for me in terms of, I spoke last week and I think I put a few things out on social media where I said, realistically, like percentage wise, I need to be hitting like 22 points above the average on a weekly basis at the moment. And ironically, this week I actually did, which was probably my best above average for the season so far. Now, whether that can continue with this blank game week coming ahead, I'm not so sure, because obviously you've got less teams. Some of us haven't got enough players that are going to start, etc. But it's a nice segue into what the theme of the episode is, which is nothing further than how we all approach in this blank game week. Not simply from our perspective, but also how we'd be looking at that, or how we would suggest that other people start looking at it, because there are many different variables that we can take into account with all of this, right? So for some people that maybe start off and looking at it and saying, well, I've got a load of players that won't be playing, there was the option of trying to build up 5 transfers towards this week. Some people have got free hit chips available. Some people have got wildcard chips available to them. And some people were just good with their planning up until this point, so they're kind of okay. It'd be good for us to get into it and see the different angles that each of us are looking at different things. Just before we touch on that, useful also just to do a mini review over the game week that has just gone by. So which one of you finished bottom? And that weren't me. Mr. Arthur.
Yeah, don't know the direction he's pointing, but yeah, it was me. It was a dead game week, to be honest. I tried to put it behind me. I've got to keep it real. It's one of them ones I didn't. I think obviously when man told me what points I was on, that was the first I knew. Put in a Katike for Haaland before Haaland dropped in price. And a Katike was my captain because I wanted to go differential, and he was benched. I don't think I need to say much more than that, really. That's
what frustrating about the game, innit? It's like you can do things in the right way, hit the right process. You would think for who Liverpool were playing, their only striker, it makes sense. And then he gets benched. And you're like, that's from nowhere. And that's a variance that you can't, there's nothing you can do about that. Especially with, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Hots, it was that he then ended up getting brought on, right, for like a 10, 15 minute stint, that kind of thing. So it just nullifies anything that your squad could have done to help you. And that's been the frustrating thing about the game. Yeah.
If you don't take risks when you're trying to catch up,
yep,
it's like I'm not trying to just float ahead where I am. I want to close the gap. So it's making me get stuck on decisions moving forward now, because I'm not always awarded for my, I'm not saying bravery, but for my decision making is not always getting the reward that I believe it should, which is football. It's part of it. So, I take it on the chin, but I can still be pissed off at the same time.
Yeah. And Gus, what about you for the week? How did you feel? Anything in particular went really well, or anything where you're like, oh, actually, I need to change that around with the team?
Well, I think the structure of my team done really well this game week. I had good points from all sections of my team. Obviously, we all benefited from the Arsenal defence getting good returns from. I know you got obviously Saliba. I got obviously Gabriel. Hot's got what he got. And I had obviously Senesi as well, who done well for me. And Szoboszlai came through for me, which is obviously a big uplift because I have him and you guys don't have him. So that was really, really good. I guess I've been benefiting from having the right captain the last few game weeks, and I went the wrong choice this game week and went for Thiago over Bruno Fernandes. And it was a heart over head choice, really. My head was saying Bruno because he is that guy who I believe is now the safe choice. But again, like Hots, I was trying to go for that kind of that uplift. And he got a goal, so I can't complain too much, I guess. But yeah, look, I think, I have to sort of remain in my own bubble and concentrate on my team. And if I get above the average, then regardless of where it lies with you guys, I've got to take it as a win and just move forward with that, And it's been a good week for me. So long may it continue.
That's true. I think he is a safe pick when he's at home. I think he's got an average of like a 10-point return for the last 5 home games. Not so sure what he's like away. I haven't finished all of my analysis for the week, etc. But yeah, the week was all right. I was most happy with the decision I made around the goalkeepers that I had. So I put Dubravka in. Like, I'd done a load of research into whether I thought I could get more out of him than Sarr, bearing in mind that I felt that Burnley would come under a lot of pressure, etc. And ultimately, the analysis I went through, that worked out. So I was good with that. And similar to you, I've got Senesi too. Bruno obviously helped. And then the move that I've made with Dango has done okay for me over the past couple of weeks. He's always returned something. So can't complain too much. However, going into this blank game week, a lot of things that need to be addressed because I've kept some of the players that will blank. But obviously that limits what I'm going to be able to do for this week. And then it kind of starts changing whether my strategy is going to be wildcard 32 or whether it's going to be wildcard 35. I suppose without further ado, it's probably time for us to start getting into having a look directly at Blank Game Week 31. So, Blank Game Week 31. Another week, another reckoning. What's our thoughts in terms of the way that we approach this? I know there are various different ways that it can be done. For instance, if I look at me specifically, I know that I've got 11 players that can go out. Not necessarily saying that I'm happy with those 11 players because there's a particular way that I would like to approach the game week. So from my perspective, I try to look at the fixtures and I'm thinking to myself, well, do I need to use one of my chips here? Because the game weeks have kind of started shaping the way that I go about things. So a few weeks ago, I put it out there that I wanted to go on the strategy of wildcard 32. So I would do what I could do to make sure I had at least 10 players out, and then I'd go ahead with that. But now I'm starting to think that I won't go with wildcard 32. But I've also started contemplating, would it be useful? Is it a sensible thing to go for a free hit, for instance, on this blank game week? More so that I can attack the fixtures because I look at it and think, well, I don't necessarily tick all of the criteria that I would usually think you go for with a free hit. So with the free hit, you'd probably go for that if you've got 8 or less players that are going to play. But I've already said that I've got 11 that will play. How do you guys look at things? Like, I've seen some people talking about wildcarding into this game week, which feels very odd to me. What would your thoughts be on that, Hots?
So from a personal perspective, I'm in the same shoes as you with 11 starting. However, Cash is one of those and he was out of the last game. And he's going to be potentially out this weekend. So obviously we all get one free change a week. I was hoping not to have to make any changes so that I can have...
you could take something over.
Yeah, into the next game week because I don't know what I'm going to do chip-wise anymore. From my perspective, as I said, nothing's been working. So I've had players in my team that I'm not happy with, that I've wanted to get rid of, but I've kept them because they're playing in 31, but they're doing fuck all. So now, approaching 31, it feels dumb to take minuses or get rid of those players that I've held on for all this time just to get rid of them now, when I could have just got rid of them in the first place and got the points that I needed to get that would have put me in a higher position. So I'm stuck in a catch-22 because after all the patience I've shown to try and hold these 11 men in my team, I feel like I might as well go through the game week with the 11 men I've already got, and if it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. I don't want to say I've given up. That's how I feel. But away from my perspective and just natural advice that I would give, I would always, if I'm being real, say if you haven't got 11 men, then get 11 men. So if that means you need to take minuses, take minuses. If it means that you think that you've got the amount of minuses you're going to take is too much, then do what you've got to do to get 11 out. That's just my honest opinion. I've taken minuses before in these type of situations, and the total score that I got was worth it in the end. And it was like high scoring points in that game week. So wouldn't be scared to take minuses. It's just that in my personal situation, I feel like an idiot to take minuses now when I could have just done it earlier and reap the benefits from it. Taking myself out of it, I would advise that if you haven't got 11, try to field 11. First option for me would be minuses. I wouldn't use a wild card now because we don't know what's going to happen, and we will do over the next few weeks.
What's your thought process, Hots, on you were saying about when you've done it previously, the game weeks ended up being high scoring, or you've managed to get good points out of it. With the fixtures for this game week, like, do you see this as one where they're going to be decent scores, or do you think it'll be a low scoring week?
If I'm being totally honest, I'm not prepared for this week. Hence why I'm saying I might just leave my team, because I've got men like Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I don't even know who he's playing, but I just know he's in my team and he's in my 11. Like, he's doing shit. If I take him out, Roger's doing nothing. Like, Bearman just doing nothing. So it's like, if I'm going to keep these waste man anyway and just hope that they deliver before the last time that they're in my team, if I'm going to wildcard in 32, then, or if I'm going to wildcard 33, at least I've waited all this time with you man on my team doing nothing for weeks upon weeks, that if I now go and put the players that I believe will do well, and then you man do something, that's going to just throw me like over the edge. So like, I might as well just do one more week. And if it means I'm not in the middle again, so be it. So I've not even looked at who's playing who. The only one I do know is Wilson is playing. I know Wilson's got a good game. So this is not like me.
Yeah,
this how you know this is not like me, but I was pissed this week. Like, literally. So like, sorry if it seems like I'm not prepared to give the advice that the viewers need, but I'm going through my own trauma. And they did say
all good.
the bottom line is this. If you
Man, it's a hug.
Nah, never that. The bottom line is this. If you've got less than 11 players for your team, get 11. That's my advice. If that means that you take a -4, so be it. Don't go into this game week thinking I'll just play with 10 because I don't want to take a -4, because that -4, your player will give you an average of 2 if he just plays like over 60 minutes. And, you know, you don't know what he could do. And I'm sure whoever you're going to put in is going to, you know, you're going to believe he can do something. That's where I'm coming from in it. Like, I've taken -8s in these type of positions before. And like I said, got high scores. So that would be my advice on what you should do going forward. Difficult for me to say fixture-wise, because at the moment, the teams that I think would be winning are not winning. But I think Fulham is a good team. United will do okay this game week too. I think Bournemouth, even though they've had a clean sheet this game week just gone, I think they've run a ball at the back still. That's just my personal opinion.
And Guffs, what's your thought process about the week in general, in terms of do you think that it's going to be a high scoring week, or do you think it's going to be below average type thing? And what's your general approach to things?
I think it probably will be a low scoring game week, if I'm honest. These are playing against Brentford, FYI, Hots, just to let you know that. I would disagree with what Hot said, really, because I don't think it's as binary as just saying if you got...
There's a surprise. You disagreeing with everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's as binary as that if you've got 10, buy someone, take a minus. I don't think it's necessarily that simple. I do think that it depends really what the fixtures are that game week, whether or not you take the minus or not. I don't think the game week fixtures 31 are particularly great. There's no particular matchup that I look at and think that one stands out. And also, I think taking a minus for me in a blank game week, I would look at that only if I'm bringing someone in that is a threat. So if I didn't have Bruno in my team, you know, if I didn't have someone like that potentially could hurt me, then I might take a minus for that particular player. But
in the game week, you don't want to just cover, right? So so I think that's more the angle that you're coming from with regards to not necessarily taking a minus, because if you're just taking the minus just to cover, like, so to your point, Hots, you need to apply common sense, because if you just put any old player in, like, that's not necessarily going to give you the uplift or whatever not, and it could backfire, right? The way I look at it, I guess, is less trying to attack the fixtures and
Exactly.
It's about making sure that you've got six of the right attackers, right? For this game week. So like when I look at things, I've been trying to look at the fixtures and make them like a tier. So for instance, a tier 1 for me would be that I think Leeds and Brentford would be in there and Bournemouth and United would be in there, simply because I know that there's either lots of chaos in their games because they're transitional, or there's high XG because of their defenses. And then looking for, have we got other fixtures that are similar to all of that? So for instance, Everton, Chelsea, I don't look at as one that I can attack, for instance. But then I do think because of what's on the line in that Middlesex v Forest game, there's something to be looked at there. And we know that Gibbs White is in form, for instance. And you touched on it already about Fulham v Burnley. Fulham are at home. We know Fulham do better, courtesy of Gus on the ground. I remember you mentioning it a couple times when you was there, Gus. And in reality, that has been the case over the season. They've been generally good when they're at home. I guess what you try to do is try and make it structurally that, okay, if those two games, if I'm right and those two games are the games where there's going to be lots of potential, i.e. Leeds v Brentford, Bournemouth v United, then my thought process is I need to own the goals in those games. So a Bruno is appealing to me then. Like a Thiago is appealing to me, or a Dango and a Sade, they're appealing to me. For instance, what you said, Hots, about DCL, like as much as he's been much maligned over the past couple of weeks and he missed the pen or whatever not, like we know he's on pens. We know ultimately he is one of their focal points. My advice would be try and attack and ensure that you own where you think goals could come from in the game week. If you was on, for instance, free hit, or you've built up like four transfers, then you can go ahead with that. For instance, if I was going to free hit or I was going to wildcard, and I don't advocate anybody wildcarding on this blank game week with less fixtures and so on. But for me, it feels like when looking at the fixtures that the structure you go with is like 3-5-2. And then it's from that structure, it's working out who the better players in that time. So for instance, if I look at me personally, I was thinking I need to transfer out Lefay because he didn't play last week because of a knock and he's got a bit of a yellow above him. But then because Newcastle have gone and got themselves owned in Europe this week, I'm aware that they're probably going to be demoralised when they play, as much as they'll be up for it because it's Sunderland that they play. At the same time, they've picked up a couple of injuries as well. So with that said, if they've got no Guimaraes in midfield, they've also got no Tonali, then I'm starting to think maybe Lefay is a decent punt for the week rather than me going out and trying to buy. Other problems that I've still got De Kuyper. So I'm like, yes, he allows me to field 11 players, but because of that manager that he's got, he generally will play 60 minutes, if that. And that could be either side. He's another area that I look at that I think I probably need to do something about that.
You know the difference with that? For me, yeah, because I know he'll get some minutes, I wouldn't care. Even if I get one from him. Because you could have someone that only gets one. See, like, talking about my team again, yeah. If Cash is proven to be out, all of this talk about he's gone. If he's red and he's not playing this game week, I'm replacing him. Forget free transfers carrying over. I'll replace him. And it might not work out who I'll replace him with, but he's gone. But if he's yellow still and there's no confirmation, then I might risk it and then have 10. Because I believe he might make it, if that makes sense. But if I know he's gone, he's out, he's gone. But then I can't be giving advice and thinking, oh, if you're top of the league, then there's no point risking it because you're so far ahead, you don't need to take the minus. There's so many different situations that you could advise for. You can, there's a limit to how much you can actually say, isn't it? Some of it has to come with common sense. Because if you're flying in the league, you might think, I don't care if I've got 10 men. I'm gone. I'm in the top 1,000. So it's all circumstantial.
Looking at it through the lens of my team, okay, because obviously that's, I've been building towards this game week, all right? I got rid of assets from Man City and Arsenal over the last few game weeks to try to get to this point where I can put a team out on the pitch. So I've been mindful of making sure I can put a team out. For me, I'm in a situation where I have 11 players on the pitch. One of them is Cash. which is a bit of a worry for me. But I'm looking at the fixtures for this game week, and we'll come to fixtures obviously later on in the programme. But, you know, I've got Bruno Fernandes, who's a good asset to have this game week. I've got Rodgers, who hasn't been doing great, but he's at home to West Ham and is a player that you probably want to have. I've got Thiago, who is a player you want to have this game week, right? I've got Wilson, who's a player you want to have this game week. So when I look at sort of the top players that you want to have in your team, and I'm not including here like a Salah or a Cole, who are quite expensive, which that would take a lot of structural movement to get the players in. But outside those two players, the big hitters or the perceived big hitters that you want to have in your team, I've already had in my team this game week. So for me, looking at me, how I'm approaching this game week, if I knew that Cash wasn't playing, who am I looking at that I can feel really confident that, yeah, this guy, look at the fixture, go on the form, is going to get me that clean sheet or get me that return. Like, I don't see that kind of like golden bullet there. So, I mean, all I'm really saying is that it's, you know,
have you got a Fulham
if
player?
you want to combine it,
Have you got any Fulham defence?
I haven't got Fulham defence.
If Cash is out, I'd like to see us. What will you do next week if you play with 10 men?
Well, we'll find out.
Cool.
I'm just saying, like, you know, I just think that, you know, it's, for me, it's not just about taking a minus.
Yeah, but that's
It's
obvious though, bro. When I've said taking a minus, I don't just say, because you got 11, just go and take a minus. That's stupid. That's not what I'm saying, bro. I'm saying if you've got less players on the pitch, then obviously you've got to think about what you're doing. It's like, oh yeah, you've got this, so just go for it and just do anything. Obviously, you've got to have some thought into it, bro. Like, it's not just about taking a minus.
Relax.
It's not trying to make a decision that's sensible.
It's not about you. Okay, you have your philosophy, and I respect it. This is about, in terms of, in my opinion, it's not a blanket. You have to cover your team and put 11 players on the pitch, because, you know, we've all had game weeks where we've had 11 players on the pitch and one player is getting 1 point. That happens regularly, right? And if you're taking a -4, there's a risk of you getting 7 or 8, but it's also a risk you can get 1. So I'm just simply saying that,
100%.
yes, of course, we all put players in our team with the hope that that player can get points. That's why we bring players into our team. But, you know, you just have to kind of like, and that's why I said at the very beginning of my statement, this isn't a great game week. It's not as if we have an Arsenal versus a Burnley, or we have a Man United at home to Wolves. The games this week are quite evenly matched. And even some of the teams where before, like Burnley, for example, a good example, Burnley 3 months ago was a banker. Whoever's playing against Burnley put players in. Well, Burnley have been doing okay recently. They picked up a little bit. There's no longer a straightforward, like, definitely Fulham going to win the game 3-4-0. You know, I still think Fulham going to win the game, but I can see Burnley getting a goal.
Okay.
Oh. But it's not to me. It's not a home run as it would have been 3 months ago. Do you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't be surprised if Burnley nicked a goal.
Okay,
that's my opinion. So
when you look at this,
I'm just saying for people watching this podcast who are thinking about, who haven't got 11 players on the pitch, just be mindful of just not just having to rush to put players in your team. It's not necessarily as simple as that. That's what I'm saying.
So I do get that. Like I said, I'm generally of the opinion of trying to ensure that you've got 6 attackers of the right ilk for those games. Like, obviously, I've given an idea of where I think the strengths are. What I do think is, to the point that Hots was making, there is common sense that needs to be applied with any of these things, right? So it's like, if, for instance, somebody was to free hit or to wildcard to ensure that they've got 11 players, but from 11 different teams, like, it's going to be problematic. You probably have a weak team out for that week. For me, I feel like if I center the attack around some of the areas that I've talked about fixture-wise, then it should be all right. But the key things to avoid, I guess, because these fixtures are, like, they're quite middle of the road, like where you've got teams of equal strength against each other, I don't see, or I don't think it's one of those ones where you can overvalue any clean sheets, like where you think, oh, yeah, definitely I'll get a clean sheet out of this game and so on. It would be nice. And I don't think that you spread your players across too many different teams. You just go for the right teams, if that makes sense. And try to avoid playing safe, which I guess is the mix of what Hots is saying against what you are saying as well. Right? It's like, well, don't not take the minus if the minus is actually going to be beneficial to you, depending on the structure of your team, I guess. The big thing that is going to come into all of it that I imagine is going to make or break the week for most players is the captaincy choice.
I just want to make one sort of like final point, I guess, before we wrap this section up. And it's about the free hit. I think that it's really important to really raise the point about the free hit. Now, if you still have a free hit in your pocket and you're thinking about using it for this game week, personally, I would advise against it because, you know, you may have seen a lot of things across social media about how to approach free hits. You know, we have a double game week in 33, and most people who want to load up on the right assets for that game week, who had doubles, Man United, Man City, Arsenal had doubles, but those teams that had doubles in 33 are blanking in 34. So you probably want to have your free hit for 34 because that's going to be a more impactful Blank Game Week than 31. So if you can put 9-10 players like a -4 if you have to for 31, I would definitely go with that and make sure you keep your free hit for 34 because, you know, that's a game week where you're probably going to have a lot of players out, particularly players from Man City and Arsenal, who obviously we tend to own those kind of assets in our team, right? So that's the one thing I would say about
There's one other point. There is a very, very small chance, depending on what happens with Crystal Palace in Europe, that the blank 431 actually doesn't blank at all. So the City Crystal Palace happens just later in the week because of obviously the break with the FA Cup and so on. So we'll have to wait to see on Friday when they make the announcement, and depending on what Crystal Palace do. But anyway, captains, what's everybody thinking?
Look, I've said it so many times. You know, Bruno Fernandes to me is now the kind of the go-to pick, and I think if you're someone who wants to play the game safe at this point, then he's definitely the one to go for. Yes, his stats at home have been better than the ones away, but here's a guy.
Stop stealing my intel.
Yeah, but in the last 3 games, you know, he scored 13, 8, and I think 10 points. So. You know, he's putting points on the board. And I think anyone that saw Monday Night Football, there's a section that was done by Henry and Carragher, you know, looking at kind of his first half and his second half. And I found it really interesting because what it showed me was the kind of aggressive positions on the pitch he was taking, how he was calling for the ball, and just sort of how he sort of manoeuvred the team around. And I thought it was a really good insight in terms of why he is such a great asset and how the team looked for him to be that one to find that killer pass or to be the one who's in that last action. So he's in a really good vein of form right now. And I think that he's someone that is top of my list for captain choice. Outside that, I think Wilson is definitely another good choice. The only thing I'll say about Wilson, obviously he has had a knock recently. He's just come back into the team. He hasn't been in great form recently, but they are playing against Burnley and Fulham are a good home team. So he's definitely someone to think about. So those are the 2 people I'm looking at this game week. And the last one I'll put out before I hand it over to you in Hots is Rodgers. You know, I keep on singing about Rodgers, game in, game out, and he keeps letting me down. But, you know, they are at home to West Ham. West Ham have picked up, but Rodgers is a very streaky player. And he is due. And he does tend to have these sort of like 2 or 3 game stretches where he kind of puts points on the board. So this could be the start.
I think he's missing other midfielders. That's the reason why you're not seeing returns from him at the moment.
McGinn is back though, which is helpful.
Yeah, but is Tielemans back yet? Do we know what the scenario on him is?
I don't know the ETO and Tielemans, but McGinn is back, which is obviously very helpful for their stability midfield. Again, he's definitely like, you know, the outside one for me, and I'm probably not going to go for him, but you know, yeah, that's my choices this week.
But obviously, Salah has scored in the week as well, so I would imagine his underlying stats have been really good. So every time you look on projections, they always show him as somebody that could be up there from a captaincy choice point of view. From my perspective, I was looking at the different players that are out there and what I'd likely be doing. And it's interesting that most captain choices at the moment look as though they're playing away from home, which in an ideal world, you try and keep your captain at home. for that advantage. Obviously, we've got Thiago, who's probably got the best ceiling because he's goal concentration, right? He's not anything else other than that, and obviously he's on penalties. And then there is Pedro. Obviously, he blanks last week per se, but his form over the last 6 has been very good. I mean, is there anybody in particular outside of all of that you look at Hots that you think, well, this person's got an outside chance of doing something for this game week? Like, I don't know, somebody that, heaven forbid, someone from Middlesex called Richard. I know he's your favourite player.
Well, it's possible Richards could get a goal. You know, he scored in his last game. They're fighting for survival in the Premier League. So, but I don't know if Solanke will start. I don't know what the manager's doing over there. I haven't been paying attention to them in the sense of who starts and who doesn't.
Yep.
I think if I was looking at outside players that haven't been mentioned so far, I guess I would say Thiago. I think Thiago's got a good possibility of getting a goal against Leeds. So that's like he's someone that you can probably rely on to get 1 goal. And maybe Dominic Calvert-Lewin even, after missing a penalty and not helping his team get an important 3 points. He's probably gone home, taking a look at himself in the mirror, and he's pissed with himself. Do you know what I mean? I've got a point to prove. So maybe he might come out trying to make up for that because they need the points. They might be a little bit ahead of the others, but they're fighting for survival, just like Tottenham. So maybe one of those two. Plus, I've got both of them, so they're fucking better.
I'd give an honourable mention to the headband bandit. Obviously, Gordon he's not playing his normal position at the moment. Hal's playing him up front. So he could be a really good differential, but he'd be a brave man to put him in as captain. Although, obviously, Newcastle are at home. But and the other fixtures, like I said, you've got Middlesex, but also a differential can be for Forest. So Gibbs White, useful form, I said it earlier. He's somebody that you could look at. I don't think anybody that they've got in their attack you'd particularly hone in on. So Jesus does his thing, but his thing is never really scoring many goals. So even if he does score a goal, it's not going to be a brace or anything like that. And again, you'd be really brave to hang your coat on him.
It's an interesting time of the season because I always look at this time of the season where we no longer look at teams in terms of where they are in the league, but more in terms of who's got something to play for. And I think that's really important at this stage of the season. You know, I think the teams that are we saw it with Brentford, right? Brentford, who have been really good all season, allowed Wolves to come back to 2-2 and they're at home. You know, a few months ago, that might have happened. And I think psychologically, you know, players are a little bit tired, fatigued. They're not going to get to Europe, not going to get relegated. That 5% dip in concentration and form can mean the world in this league where teams are so evenly matched. So I think that, you know, I'd always look to go for players who've got something to play for, which I think to your point with like Calvert-Lewin, I think he is a good shout because, you know, although we're talking about Tottenham and West Ham and Forest as being the main candidates for that last 3rd spot, Leeds are not too far away. So they still need to kind of get a few more wins on the board and they haven't got many opportunities at home to get those 3 points. So he could be a good shout because they do have something to play for. So, you know, my bit of advice for people who are struggling about captain choices is that look for players who've got something on the line.
Right. So you've looked very miserable throughout this episode, Hots. And I understand.
I don't go to the same barber or hairdresser as you two, innit? So.
Oh, wow.
See you two looking similar-ish, using the same chemicals and shit.
Man, this is natural berries and juice, my friend, okay? Don't hate the girls. Keep telling you this. Yeah, man.
To be fair, if I was going to be hating on anyone's, it's not going to be yours. Arx looks more looked after. So
you're a joker.
I mean, your fruits and berries are wild fruits and berries. You know what I mean?
I don't know where you're
just use that magic sponge.
Say that again.
That's it.
Didn't even hear what you said, Manji.
I just used magic sponge.
I was talking to him. Magic sponge.
No. Yeah, him and his wild berries, isn't it? What's he use? Blueberries and nuts, yeah?
You know, it's what it is, isn't it? You know.
Look at this guy.
Yeah, man.
Soul glow, yeah?
Don't hate the curls, brother. You know what I mean? It's not good on you. You know what I mean? It's not good on you.
Yeah, well.
You know.
Well.
Just get the hot comb and just do your thing in it. But
the hot comb, you know. This guy thinks I've got some proper biff. Like the hot comb. Oh dear.
Oh boy. Listen, God forbid what's gonna happen with Hots if he's in a bad week. Do you know what I mean? Might have to send that.
No, I think he's already caveated that he doesn't expect this week to be good. He'll probably win it now.
Well, these players in my team,
that.
if I don't change them, they've done nothing for game week after game week, so they are due in it. He said it. He said Rodgers is due, got him. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's due, got him. Like Thiago scores every week more times. Probably could get a goal. Bruno, he said every play he's got is a template, innit? I've got that template, so I've had them. So it's just about getting through this game week.
But the only one you haven't got is Joe Pedro.
Yeah, because I didn't want to take out Lewin and Thiago, and it didn't work out, did it? Because if I...
You got Tiki-Taka, haven't you? Ekatike.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I took an Ekatike for Haaland at the point of last week. I kept Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Thiago for game week 31. So if I was ever going to take out someone within that price range, I was never going to take out Haaland for Pedro at that time. It would have been one of them two. But I thought there's no point taking them out when they're playing in 31. So it's just one of those things.
It's process over vibes, I guess. But yeah, we'll see where we are. But people, obviously, tune in next week. Like and subscribe to make sure you get that notification so you can find out whether Hots is in the mud or whether he's skinning teeth and getting ready for a trip.
Yeah. Pray for Hots.
You're on holiday soon, no?
Yeah, like I couldn't wait. I couldn't be waiting.
It's in a
you know what it
week
is?
coming.
This is the bottom line. I couldn't wait
Yeah.
to the end of the season. The season's been, like I said, it's been a worse season for me ever. So I just said, you know what? My birthday month's April.
Why do you keep reiterating
Because it's
that?
the facts, isn't it? But like, remember Rafa, facts. But in reality, my birthday month next
I know
month.
you're going through all of them this week. You're doing Stone Cold Hots, just keeps on saying, and that's the bottom line.
I was going to say that,
is.
bro.
But like, yeah, all jokes aside, it's my birthday month, April. So like, I couldn't bother to wait for the end of the season. So like, yeah, from April onwards, I'm going to start doing what I do. You know, man's holiday hots on a normal. But obviously, because due to the podcast, man, I had to chill out. So I haven't been nowhere since December. So it's like, it feels like a long time for man. So I've got I've got a few. Well, you know what it is? You
had a holiday because of pod, and I'm not doing well.
Oh, I haven't had holidays because I was trying to commit to certain things in life and had to chill out.
Yeah,
including the pod. But obviously, it's time in it. It's been a few months now, so you're gonna notice towards the last few game weeks, I might be away for a few of them, so I might have to be in a different location filming. But I've tried to work a few around. I'm not gonna lie. I've got like about 6 or 7 in place. So like over the course of the end of the season. So
no Michael Jackson behavior, right? We don't want you to be like chiming in from some kind of tree.
What's the tree house?
Because that's the only place you can get rid of. Yeah.
It will be where it will be.
You know what? Yeah. I saw that interview again the other day. Like Michael Jackson's a madman, you know.
Yeah.
That was like 45, 46 talking about, yes, I'm Peter Pan and climbing trees.
Mad.
Not serious. But yes, as I said, people, like and subscribe, hit the notification button. Like you can also get us on the usual audio platforms if that's your thing. But yeah, like next week will be interesting because it's a particularly dodgy week for us to be trying to navigate. But after that, we've got a few guests coming in between now and the end of the season, just to get flavours on how different people are approaching the way for us to go forwards on these last couple of weeks where everybody is using chips. I would imagine that ramps up a lot from Game Week 32 and trying to navigate and guess what is going to happen next. But Hots, please keep the faith. Don't do anything dodgy.
No, man, never that.
You please stop like a Cheshire cat. Cool, blimey.
Just call someone Hots, yeah. That's all I'm saying. Yeah?
Apart from where I am in the league, like I said, I'm still leading the leaderboard out of the triple captains. So that's what I'm fighting for now, just to maintain that. I've got a few more game weeks to maintain that, so I'll have the bragging rights out of us. But who knows? One of you may even catch me if I don't fix up. But yeah, we'll see, innit?
Yeah, so the interesting thing is that you're gonna win the head-to-head between all of us, but somebody might get more points than you, which will be a bit of sweet moment.
What? As you said about wrestling earlier with Stone Cold, let's flip it to The Rock and I'll just say, just bring it. It's simple. You get me? But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We are over and out, people.
Truth be told,